All right, everybody. Hello and happy Tuesday. I thought that I would come on here and just have a nice little reflection slash a celebration because you can read the banner celebrating 100K. So, in just the last few days, I not only surpassed the 100,000 subscribers, but I'm at over 105,000 subscribers as of last check. So, obviously, a lot has happened in the past few days. I'm still on cloud nine from the interview last Thursday, which, of course, was not only the fourth Starship launch, but also my interview with Elon Musk. So, I thought that it would be fun to take a trip back down memory lane and also point out a really interesting other sort of celebration or an anniversary of quitting my job 2 years ago this month. Sort of some of the backstory with that, taking a big leap of faith and having it seemingly pay off. So, I appreciate everyone who's watching. By the way, we'll have a special guest, Joe Tagmire, coming in about 30 minutes because we are going to go through some more Starship recap. So if you're interested in that, stick around. I'm having an interview with the BBC a bit later today about Starship as well. Yes. But I just wanted to talk about the fact that 2 years ago, I was still working in TV news. I signed a settlement basically to quit my job, break my contract, and go full time on Ellie in Space. And at that point, the channel had only really been going for about a year and a half. Probably had maybe close to 40,000 subscribers. So big leap of faith to take. And, I had to pay $5,000 to just literally walk away from my job, which is crazy. Um, but I did it because I actually thought that I wouldn't last a year self employed, that I would have to go back to the news business and I didn't want to burn my bridge. And so here we are 2 years later. And not only am I not having to go back to news, nor do I want to go back to news anytime soon, but I just successfully interviewed Elon Musk. And that's been something that I've been saying I want to do now since at least 2021. So, I think it's a really cool milestone to hit at sort of an interesting time. Also, just I've had a lot of time to reflect in the past few days, and Elon subscribed to me about a year ago. And so, quit my job 2 years ago. Elon subscribes about a year ago. And, I really do want to thank him for the time that he gave me. Granted, of course, we all wanted more, but it was the day of a launch. It was at the very end of the day. And to have just even 15 minutes to sort of ask questions about the launch on the same day was really something that that would have been the best case scenario, and somehow it happened. I thought that I would have to, go to Giga Texas, which would be great too. But I really had this desire to interview him down at Starbase in some capacity. That's obviously the most logistically difficult, location. It's not a walk in the park to get there, whereas Giga Texas is down the street. But anyway, I'm rambling. But I'm seeing some comments come in. Superb Musk interview, lots of great info embedded in his answers. I've seen a couple Monday morning quarterbacks on the interview. One of the parts that I left out, which I might as well disclose, is that I asked him if, I was going to ask him, would SpaceX end up maybe returning to the moon on their own because we're having delays with Artemis? And immediately I got a no comment. I'm not going to talk about that. So I hurried on to the next question because I did not want to, piss him off. But basically, no comment on Artemis. So some people were like, why didn't you ask about that? Well, I did. But with that being said, I did save a couple more minutes of the interview that you guys haven't seen yet. I'm going to be making a second video about an issue that is also sort of near and dear to Elon. So get excited for that. but it was just crazy. It was a whirlwind, you know. I was very tired at that point. I had woken up at 5 a.m., did a 3-hour live stream for the Starship launch, and basically, you know, didn't know for sure that I'd be interviewing him until about, I don't know, 5:20 or so at night, and was there about an hour later. So that was pretty incredible. um, that was really cool. I've had a lot of people sort of ask me, "Well, how did you pull this off?" And it's just been a lot of persistence and sort of also being there in the right place at the right time, right? It's a lot easier to ask for an interview if I'm there on site covering the launch anyway, as opposed to, you know, trying to nail down a date and time with probably the busiest and, you know, richest and most one of the most powerful people in the world. So enough about that. But yes, we have a nice question from El Hungaro. When is the 100K plaque? I don't know. I'm past 100K, so it should be coming soon here. But hopefully it comes soon. I've had a few people remind me of that, and so I had to change my address actually because, you know, it was going to go to Washington State, where I started my YouTube channel essentially. So I got monetized about 3 months after I started really making consistent videos about Starlink, and that was back in 2021. So it's been a crazy journey. It really has. And I just thought that, you know, might be a good time to talk about this. Thank you, Mike, for watching. Howdy, Ellie. You've had a busy post-launch activity. I tell you, not only did I stay up for many hours after getting the Elon interview, even though I was dead tired, I was like, no time to sleep. The launch is a hot topic. You got to get the interview out tomorrow. And if it had been like an hour-long interview, I probably would have spent more time sort of, I don't know, finessing and fine-tuning. But I was like, you really only had 15 minutes, and the Starship launch just happened. So the news reporter in me was like, don't have it be old news. Break this news in a reasonable time frame. So I guess we should talk about the fact that in 4 days, the video has like 730,000 views, which is crazy. I still have yet to break a 1 million view video, and I would be very surprised if this one doesn't hit 1 million views. Considering, you know, it's only been up for 4 days and it's well past 500,000 views. Thank you, Ross, for the super chat. Ross, you are such an amazing supporter of my channel. Congrats on your Elon interview, Ellie. Your excellent questions cement your reputation as a top space journalist and hopefully leaves the door open for a follow-up interview in the future. I hope so too. One of the nice sort of, you know, affirmations that I got after was Elon commented on X, good interview. And I'm laughing because at the time, my thoughts right after the interview was, I botched this. He's very annoyed with me. You know, I failed. I'm an open book. And so that was my thought of, you know, I couldn't get a good read on him. I couldn't tell if he enjoyed talking to me. And, you know, I was like, why am I reading off a piece of paper? But at the same time, I was like, well, the one time that you met him briefly at AI Day, you were so tongue tied, you could barely get out a sentence to hand him a little 3D printed Tesla bot, which you can see a 3D printed Tesla bot back there. So, you know, I was holding the paper because I wanted a backup in case I froze, which I didn't. But yeah, you know, there's been a lot of people that say, oh, these were stupid questions. You know, I would have asked him this and that. And my response is, okay, get an interview with him. Go for it. Like, you know, my thought going into it was that I would have more time. I had to shift plans last, you know, minute essentially and say, okay, we're going to be standing in a lobby and I only have 15 minutes. So how can I, you know, get as many questions as possible? So yeah. So here's some questions that I see. Oh, some of these are weird questions. How were you nervous before the interview? I was more like, holy shit, basically. I was, um, I was in shock. I was definitely in shock, and I was sort of like tired, but running on adrenaline. But the one thing I actually was surprised I didn't feel is I didn't feel, my heart start racing. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to pass out. It was more like, I can't believe this is happening. I've wanted this for so long. I've wanted this for so long. And, especially as someone who's interviewed thousands of people over, a career of almost a decade in TV news, it was like, I want this interview. And so it was more like, is this a dream? But I felt pretty composed and kind of more just like, I need the audio to be good. I need the camera to be good, etc. And so, yeah, I wasn't terribly nervous. And I say that because I met Elon for like a minute at AI Day in 2022. And I was, in a big crowd of people. It was at the end of the presentation. He had gone backstage and then he came back on stage. And I had that 3D printed Tesla bot and I just held it up and I'm like, it's for you. Instead of saying anything about who I was or that I quit my job to report on SpaceX full time. And so anyway, I was very tongue tied and much worse at that time. So I'm hoping that, there's an interview in the future. I'm not going to be greedy and immediately hit him up, but I think for the first rep, and that was one of the things that, Tim Dodd, he was also there, filming his own, part 2 of his tour, was like, hey, it's a rep, you got it in, you did good, and you'll go again. And so, I don't mean to make like such a spectacle of this interview, but I know there's a lot of curiosity because of, who Elon is. And so hopefully I'm not oversharing, but I think that it's a goal that I've had for a long time, and to see it come to fruition and then have the added benefit of getting 100K, which I've been sort of grinding my way there for a while now. And having this video, which will probably hit 1 million views. It's like all these things happening at once and things that I've really wanted for a long time. And so, yeah, I'm really happy. I'm like really happy. I'm still on cloud 9. I really am. Chris Garris, $50 super chat. So generous of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. And, I failed to say this right off the bat, but you guys are obviously a huge part of the reason that Ellie in Space is what it is. I can only do what I can on my end, put in the effort to make the videos, to try and get the interviews. But if you guys don't watch them, we have no channel. And so I say we because I really feel it's a collective effort. And to have your support over the years has been tremendous, particularly since, this is a field of journalism that I don't really have a strong background in. And, as I aim to get better and more educated, I know that you guys have been with me since the beginning, have at least seen me improve, because, I personally feel like I've come a long way in understanding this stuff, and I still have a long way to go. I mean, it's called rocket science for a reason, but to have your support is amazing. And thank you again for the congratulations from Portugal, from Pedro. Thank you. Yes, a lot of kudos to 100K. It's interesting. Like I said, I've wanted 100K, but in some ways, the biggest sort of excitement or success has been finally interviewing Elon. And I was telling my boyfriend this. It's given me sort of this like weight lifted off my shoulders, because I've given myself such an intense pressure that, like, I want to make this happen. And if there's a will, there's a way. And if you have a goal, you should see it through. But obviously, there's no timeline on how you can make that happen. And so I feel like since it's happened, I can kind of give myself internally a bit of a breather. And, even the next day, I had an interview with Jared Isaacman, who's, with the Polaris Dawn crew. They're going to be launching soon. And so it was like one crazy interview back to back with another crazy interview. And just to have this credibility, I think it's going to open up more doors in the future. And it's not just for me personally, it's for you guys to have more access to, different people, different interviews. And so here's something that I didn't play. I just think it's kind of funny. And so whatever, I'm sharing it in the live stream. It's something funny that Elon said. So of course, at the end of the interview, can I take a picture with you? And then we had a couple other people that wanted to take a picture. So just hear what he says here. Hopefully you can hear it.
Would it be okay to ask if I can get a picture with you?
Sure.
Oh, you have the mic?
Selfie infinite loop.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we say, hey, can we get a picture? Is it okay? Can we get another picture? And he says, sure, selfie, infinite loop, which I thought was kind of funny. Maybe I shouldn't be laughing at it, but yeah, I think that it's really nice of him to, give me his time. I'm just going to play this B-roll in the background. So we have some more questions, and I'm going to try to get to them because there's a lot of questions. Did they have to preview the questions? They did not. They did not. I was just told how much time I was going to get, and then it was, up on me or up to me to decide the questions. Michael asks, thank you again for the super chat. Ellie, do you still hope for an interview with Gwynn from when SpaceX headquarters transfers to Starbase? I haven't heard that is the case. But anyway, I do hope for an interview with Gwynn, although after talking to some more people behind the scenes, I just don't think she likes to do interviews. Again, I don't know for certain, but I will see. How much time did you spend preparing questions? So I made sort of that list on paper. The other reason I had it on paper, which you got to think about this stuff, is because I needed my phone to take the video. And so, I wanted to make sure that I had a hard copy just in case of basically anything. And a lot of those questions I had to kind of, think of, or, it was really just a recap of the launch. And so I don't have a crystal ball. I didn't know if it was going to go well or not. And so obviously if it hadn't have gone well, I probably wouldn't have had the interview. And so not a lot of time, but I did prepare as best as I could. Thank you again, Hans, for the super chat. One of the interesting things is, like I said, there was some uncertainty the day of the interview if it would happen. And so I covered the launch from the roof of Margaritaville. I made a quick video in my hotel room of a recap just because the breaking news reporter, I got to get the video out there. And then I drove out to Starbase again to sort of assess the damage after the launch. If there was any, see what it was like, meet and greet with people, etc. And that's about an hour drive. And so got there, I was interacting with some people. I gave out some t-shirts on the beach, and it's like 100 degrees, super humid. And I was like, I'm sweating through my dress. I've already sweated off half of my makeup. If I'm going to do this interview, which I'm still uncertain of, I should probably get in my Tesla, put on the air conditioning, and sit here. And so I sat there for many, many hours waiting for sort of an update. And eventually I got it. And that was really cool. So there was a lot of waiting and there was no certainty, but I guess I tell you some of this story because I think it's really easy for people to go for something and then say, oh, well, it's not going to happen or it's impossible. And, you got to put a little skin in the game, and you got to be willing to either, wait things out or, go out of your way to do things that other people wouldn't do, to give yourself the best shot. Obviously within reason, don't do anything crazy, but, yes. So let me scroll back and see some of these questions here. A lot of kudos, but I want to see some particular questions. This is good to know. I hear there is a big algorithm boost for a few weeks after you hit 100. there could be. I keep checking my YouTube, studio, and it's just the videos getting more views, the subscribers are growing, and it's really quite incredible. Um, Gregory makes a good point. Things happening all at once due to tons of preparation. I prepped as well as I could, and it's still like, am I in a dream? I don't think I'm in a dream as much anymore. Um, so William asked a good question. William says, I first subscribed when this was a YouTube channel about Starlink, which was in the Better Than Nothing beta days. It's when Starlink was very new. A lot of people had interest in it. Not a lot of people had access to it. Did you plan back then to evolve into a more generic channel? Or was it more just a case of just start iterating and take it from there? That's a great question. I started actually before I made the first Starlink video. I was making some Airbnb travel vlogs. And so, I stayed on a houseboat in Seattle, or I stayed in a converted fire lookout in Idaho. And I really like to travel, and so I thought I would make some videos about that. And then I did a couple food reviews, food products from Trader Joe's. Those are very cringe. And then I made the Starlink video due to a suggestion from my ex-boyfriend. And that sort of took off. And so I kind of just followed it because it seemed that there was interest, and I looked at it in the view of, I'm a news reporter. I can report on literally anything. I've reported on so many things in my career, from city council meetings to, accidents, fires, murders, to, fluffy feel good stories. I can do it. And so I started covering Starlink, and then I went to Starbase on a trip in September 2021, not really knowing what I was getting myself into. And then it was like, oh, wow, there's the Starship program, and there's a lot of interest in that. And also, it's just so inspiring. And being down at Starbase is this crazy feeling. Even if you don't know a lot about space, you can appreciate being on the side of the road next to rockets. So that's kind of how it evolved. And here we are. And I should point out another amazing super chat from Bimmer Geezer. Thank you so much for your support. $75. The super chats go a long way. I also should once again plug my Patreon. Patreon support has been down, and that is one of the ways that, when YouTube revenue, because it was struggling before this interview, I'll tell you that. I was feeling a bit defeated. I was thinking that my travel to Japan, which was like a bucket list birthday trip, had ruined my channel, and I wasn't getting the traction. And so YouTube revenue can be hit or miss. X revenue is still not fantastic. And so if you can check out my Patreon, I really do appreciate that. It goes a long way. But thank you, Bimmer Geezer. He says, Mrs. Shotwell will enjoy being interviewed by you. Everyone you have interviewed seems to enjoy it. I hope so. The one person that I really couldn't tell was Elon, but I don't think he would have commented good interview if it was terrible. Okay, so let's see. Sorry, there's a lot of comments. Here's an interesting question. Thank you for the super chat as well. If Elon brings back Dear Moon, would you want to be included to go to the moon? Number one, I don't think they're going to bring it back. So I think it would be a completely different mission. I don't think it's going to come back. But would I want to be included? Sure, why not? But also, like, I don't want to be a guinea pig either. So potentially. Yeah. So congratulations from France. Thank you so much. Over 100K. Now you will be the number one in SpaceX reporting. Well, there's some much bigger channels than mine, but I'm very excited to have this sort of badge of credibility. And once I get the plaque, it's going to be right there. I'm very excited to see it. Ross gives a good question. How do you see your channel evolving in the coming months and years following the Elon interview? Well, obviously, maybe another interview with Elon in the future would be cool, but there's a lot of other people to interview, other stuff to cover. I'm still going to be extremely dedicated to covering the progress of Starship And the good news is that I don't think we're going to Mars tomorrow. So I have subject matter to cover for quite some time, and telling the story of Starship. So my plan is to, continue to cover Starship, obviously, and maybe reach out for some other interviews. Some of the ideas I've had is try and maybe get Jeff Bezos to talk about Blue Origin. Really shoot for the stars on these things, because you should. And another thing that I was thinking of recently too is, telling the story of other companies and people who are involved with going to the moon and going to Mars, building a sustainable presence. Because, a lot of this hinges on SpaceX, but not all of it. There's a lot of mental aspects. There's a lot of logistical stuff that, it's not all SpaceX. So, how do I see the channel evolving? Obviously, someday I would love to get to the Tim Dodd level of having a team. I'm very much still a one-man band. I guess I'm not completely, because sometimes I'll have people help me hold my iPhone to film a video, but I essentially edit everything. I experimented, sorry, I have something in my eye. I experimented with having, some supplemental help. And one of the issues with that is that I move very fast and I can edit very quickly. And I think sometimes it's just better to do it yourself instead of articulating to someone what you want. That takes time, and then getting something, 2 or 3 days later. Yeah. So we'll see when it evolves to having more people on the team. The downside with having people on the team is that then you have payroll, then you have other people that depend on you. And so I have some sponsorships going, and yeah, we'll see. Mark says, how does one go about arranging an interview with the richest person on the planet on the same day as the launch? Being persistent, being patient, being actually there in person, not going home right after the launch. I could have driven back to Austin, but I heard that there was a possibility. And so I stuck around, and essentially, I think I've been on Elon's radar for a bit now with my SpaceX reporting. And so it's not like I was a complete stranger. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. And it's just being in the right place at the right time, and being patient. And thank you, Pete, for the super chat. Congrats. Keep going to 1 million. That will be great. I don't think it's impossible. I really don't. Particularly for the video. I think the video will hit 1 million. As far as, subscribers, we'll see, but it's 100K was, a really big milestone. And again, it's nice to have that stress sort of taken off my shoulders. Thank you, Charles, for the super chat. You only fail when you've given up, L beans. It's true. It's absolutely true. And so, there are times, if you're thinking yourself about becoming a YouTube creator, it doesn't matter what you're covering. It doesn't have to be space, literally anything. It is going to be a grind, and it's not going to be overnight. And so for the people that you see their channel and you say, oh, they're an overnight success, it's hardly ever that case. So yeah, got to keep grinding. And like I said, I think it's very interesting that right before all of this happened, I was feeling quite defeated with my channel. And I was like, I'm just not getting traction. Have people lost interest? And that is clearly not the case. Pete says you were worried about wearing heels, but they put you at an ideal height to talk to Elon. I still somewhat regret wearing those heels. First of all, they were very uncomfortable. But yeah, I was surprised too how dang tall I was in them. I did not want to tower over him either. Thank you for the super chat from Bruce. There seems to be less people on the roof of Margaritaville and less of a party atmosphere during the last 3 launches. What's changed? Yes, those interviews you got after the first launch were epic. So the first launch, Margaritaville had kind of just had a grand opening. They had the Musk family up there on the roof with them. So Elon's brother, sister, mother, and they had more people up there. And then they kind of tightened restrictions to where they only had NASA spaceflight, and myself, because I was kind of grandfathered into it. So yeah, they don't have the capacity, or maybe they're not up to code to have a giant party on the roof. There is a roof on the Holiday Inn in front of us that I think you can pay $50 to get up there. So if a rooftop view is what you want, you might want to go to Holiday Inn. But Margaritaville also has hotel rooms that you can also have a pretty good view. So unfortunately, I can't let any other people up there. It's not my rules, but that is why it's less of a party atmosphere, which actually is nice because it makes it a little bit more low key to actually, you know, uh, live stream. I don't have to have too many distractions. Thank you, Jessica Kirsch. Proud of you, Ellie. Yes, it's been a crazy journey. Gosh, a lot has happened, and I'm very happy to have finally achieved this milestone. And I'm also happy to stop doubting whether or not it went well, because I think we can all agree it went pretty well. um, Thank you for appreciating me being real, forthright, and kind. I think I overshare too much, but I'm glad that you like my commentary. We have almost 2,000 people watching across several platforms right now, so that's amazing. Thank you, Roz Alerts, for the $20 super chat. First of all, I just want to say huge congratulations on reaching 100K on YouTube. What are your thoughts on the new heat tiles and the Starship 5 launch with the chopsticks? Keep up the amazing work. Love, Roz Alerts on X. It's funny because Elon had tweet or posted, it's not tweeted anymore, earlier that day, saying to K10 as a reply, yeah, I think we'll catch it with the chopsticks on the next launch. So that was one of the questions. I'm like, okay, I have to ask him this on camera. And he was like, well, I have to get back with the team, but if everything looked good, I think that we should. And so it sounds like they're going to, which will be a spectacular sight. Like, if you haven't been down there, I think that is definitely one of the launches that will be crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Hopefully it's less overcast and foggy as it was on the last launch that we just saw, but I think that will be next level. And these launches have already been so exciting in their own right, just based on the fact that they're quite new, and it's this long road to building the world's first fully reusable rocket. But because of that, it sounds like it's a good time to start talking about Starship. So I'm going to add to the stage my good friend, my partner in crime, someone who was also there helping me film the Elon interview.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good.
I understand you have 100 followers. Awesome.
100,000?
Oh, 100, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's crazy. It's like a lot of these, major milestones all at the same time. And it's like, it's a lot.
Yeah, I didn't hear the very beginning of your this live stream, but did you talk a little bit about just over a year ago what was going on with you and where your channel was and how much it's changed in just over a year?
Well, I did talk about how the fact that 2 years ago, I quit my job in news, and
Yeah.
I'll just add this to the stage because it's funny to see, when I was on the side of the road, doing live shots, meeting deadlines. And it's been pretty nice to leave that behind, I must say.
Well, what I was getting at is a little over a year ago, you moved to Austin. You had big plans. Your channel was, I think you were saying that you were hoping to get to about 60,000 at that time. And then a little incident happened and kind of threw your world upside down. Yet look where you are now.
I broke my femur in March of last year. And obviously I thought that was going to derail me a lot, and somehow it didn't. So yeah, it's been quite a quite a ride. Look at this.
Yeah. Well, I just, you've been through a lot. You've done a lot of great things. And I think it's that perseverance that you've been through, despite some pretty huge challenges. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you've been a big part of that growth and assistance, because I needed your help to even carry groceries during the first launch, and we've been able to pull off some pretty crazy things. Like, honestly, it's kind of nuts. And one more super chat that I see right now, Investment Joy. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Congrats on 100K. Keep it up, and you'll be at 1 million soon enough. If you're in Austin, make sure you participate in the creator groups in the city. Lots of great talent. I didn't know those existed. And if you can maybe email or DM me more information on that, that would be awesome. But thank you. Yeah, I think, as much as I would like to have 1 million subscribers, I think it's important to celebrate one accomplishment at a time. And I'm definitely feeling, pretty good about where we are. So, and Ross says, Joe, your support to Ellie during her recovery was much appreciated. You're a gentleman. It's true.
Well, thank you.
It's true.
We've had a lot of fun. And, one of your viewers there asked about on the top of Margaritaville, and it's not as party as it was the first one. That whole trip was just, one thing after another that just built and built. And it was just amazing how that whole thing worked out. And to be able to watch the first launch with the Musk family was, something we certainly didn't plan.
No. And the funny thing is that so many of these times I've wanted something to happen, and I think I'm going on the path of making it happen, and then something might fall through. And I think multiple times now we've seen that something falls through so something better can fall together. And again, these are just really good life lessons. Maybe you already know this, but it's important to remind yourself that when your plan doesn't go to plan, a much greater thing could lie ahead. And so, for example, the first launch of Starship was supposed to be April 17th. And you and I were set up at Isla Blanca. We had basically no service, no way to live stream. And then we had, a random chance circumstance that put us up there on the roof with the Musk family. And so, the launch scrubbed, and we thought it was a failure, and it turned out to make way for a much greater success.
Right.
So, yeah. So
I think there's a life lesson there too, is just never give up, but be flexible enough to take advantage of the opportunities that come up.
Yeah. And you can't predict the future, and you may think that you're the right way for something to happen, but like you said, be flexible, because wow, I'm glad that a lot of our plans fell through. It's so true. Thank you, Tin Man. He writes, want to support Ellie in Space, join the Patreon. There's a link there. I really do appreciate anyone who supports my Patreon. Joe, you have a Patreon as well. And, it definitely helps supplement YouTube. Obviously, YouTube for me is going to be pretty decent this month in terms of revenue, but it is not usually, but hopefully we'll make it more consistent.
Yeah, I've been sort of experimenting. I obviously I started with Giga Texas, but I've been doing a lot of other stuff, and YouTube isn't very happy about me doing anything other than Giga Texas. But I think you need to expand. You need to keep trying different things, and I don't want to just be shoehorned into one particular thing.
Oh, I don't know why it just dumps me out of the line. Oh my God, I love this throwback. I remember during IFT1 when Joe said, Ellie, you have an interview with May Musk in 5 minutes. Your face was a picture.
You didn't believe me.
No, I didn't. There's no way they're going to talk to us. There's no way. And then they did.
There you go.
Although I wish we had Starlink at the time, so that there was, less chance of pixelation.
But that's actually a good thing too, is just to show the growth of your channel. Is at first it was, with basically nothing, and then it's just built. And I think the last one you did was pretty good. There's still a few things that we're working through, but otherwise it's coming along.
Well, and that's the thing. Sorry, I'm just pulling this up so that we have it ready to go here. That's the thing, is that we have also iterated on our process and our live stream, and having the right lights. And, I think maybe next we probably could use a camera upgrade, but that's also a logistical hurdle. So anyway, But let's talk a little bit about Starship, because obviously during our interview, you and I were able to glean a little bit of new information. They're going to try to have continuous Starlink coverage on the next launch. They're going to attempt to catch the booster in the chopsticks.
Right.
So mind blowing there. But we do have some slides. I saved some of the photos that we were talking about. So if we want to start maybe with this message or post from Marcus House, and I know it's a little bit blurry, so let me read it to you. Just give me a second here. Marcus House, who has a full-time channel, writes, I love to know if there were similar symptoms on any of the other 3 flaps. Given SpaceX is now completely replacing the heat shield on the Flight 5 Starship, would love to know how the other flaps held. The controlled landing after was nuts. Any hints, Elon Musk? Elon says left flap also got very hot, but was less damaged. Rear flaps seemed to be okay based on their control authority, but probably lost some tiles.
Right. And I think during the live stream when it was going through the plasma, which was just, awesome to see, every once in a while, we saw that there was a couple of camera views, but then towards the end, we only had one camera view, and that was the one focused on this flap. And so it's possible that other camera was on one of the rear flaps, so it may have been damaged a little bit too. We also saw, amongst the plasma, we saw like these sparks or little orangey stuff coming out. That's burning metal. And it seemed to be all over the place. So I think they were still having trouble in all of the flaps where that gap is, but certainly both of the forward flaps were kind of struggling a bit. And also the fact that they had this camera focused exactly here shows you that they were, concerned about it, or they were expecting it, and they wanted to be able to get a really good view. And so they specifically installed that camera.
Right.
They didn't take into account molted stainless steel getting on the lens, though.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the interesting things is Elon told us, I didn't think it would hold up.
Right.
I didn't think it would survive. And so it was kind of interesting to see sort of, the candid response of I also wasn't expecting it from Elon. It was really cool to talk to him in real time. And, how great would it be if we maybe had a chance to follow up with him on more launches? I think the day of reaction is quite interesting.
I agree. And, while we were waiting for Elon, I got a chance to talk to a bunch of other SpaceX employees too. And, their reaction, like our reaction and everybody else's while this was happening, was genuine. They were kind of like us too, going, what is going to happen? Is it going to fall off? Is it going to make it? A couple of times they lost signal, and we saw that too. We're thinking, oh, I guess that's it. And then it popped back up again. So they were genuinely just thrilled and unbelievable that it actually, both of the booster and the ship actually did all what they wanted to do and landed.
Right. Well, and I think it's a good time to talk about SpaceX posted super heavy landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. I'll play that video in a second. But Scott Manley wrote, booster was clearly close enough to the target that they had people with cameras ready. And Elon wrote, booster landing was on target. Ship landing was several kilometers off due to flap damage, but both were soft landings.
Right. For the booster, Scott was saying, well, they already had people and cameras there. Well, they didn't actually have people. They had buoys. And we actually saw those buoys even prepared for Flight 1. And they were putting them all out there in the area where they down. And you can see the buoy on the right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, right.
And it kind of had a fisheye lens. That's why the booster looks like it's flapping a little bit. It's actually the lens.
Interesting. Yeah. What an incredible video.
Yes. That vapor cone right there, just as it lit the engines. And, one of the differences between a Falcon 9 and this booster is that the Falcon 9 needs something called T-tab to light up, and it gives a green glow, and then it lights up. The Raptors do not. They have little igniters. So, the way it looks when it started up is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past.
Right.
And, the avionics and the software that they have here is really amazing too, to deal with the changing aerodynamics. And then one of the engines kind of rutted on the landing burn. but it was still able to maintain the control and, a really close in landing for the booster. And, as Elon said with the ship, because, the one flap we saw, but most likely the other flaps too, it probably reduced some of their aerodynamic efficiency. So that's why it was about 6 kilometers off. But all things considered, that's amazingly close.
Right. And here's another comment from Ross. The OLM hold down clamps were removed today for maintenance. How long do you think it will take to get the launch pad ready for IFT5?
That's a really good question. We even mentioned this in your live stream, is we focus on the booster, we focus on the ship, but there's that other part that's important too, and that's the ground support facilities, the OLM, the tower, the quick disconnects, all that stuff. Those need to be able to survive the launch and also be able to do a quick turnaround for that rapid reuse. Now, they took the hold down clamps again, and that seems to be somewhat common, but I think that they will probably just take a few weeks to get those done, checked, and installed, as long as there's not another issue. Elon put out the thing a couple days ago that maybe in about a month we might see IFT5, but he also said that ship 30 is going to have the heat shield completely removed and a new heat shield put on to kind of strengthen the tiles beyond what they've been using right now. And I think that's going to take a period of time too. So I don't know if a month for the actual launch is realistic. It might probably go into August, but we'll see.
I mean, isn't it always a little bit optimistic and then it slips?
Yeah, well, I mean, you find things as you go. Maybe they look at the data on the booster and something stands out that they didn't realize, or maybe they find out the hold down clamps really got toasted bad. I saw a different image. I don't have it. I didn't give it to you, but one of the OLM legs looked like it took a blowtorch to it. So the outer steel shell had like some melting on it. So, there's stuff that they're going to find and they're going to have to deal with. And of course, they're building another tower at the same time. So that's going on too.
It's crazy. There's so much going on. And Chris writes, I still feel trying to catch it on IFT5 is not a great idea just yet. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess there's a normal company and how they would approach things, and SpaceX, because we've seen SpaceX go from an example of a landing and then right into something else. Or like with SN15, they did the landing for the first time. They still had a few issues, but they said that's good enough. And then they pivoted to let's go get ready for the Starship itself. One of the things that did happen, and I didn't realize it, I didn't know about it until a couple of days after the launch, but we had talked about, we wanted to see if they were going to use the live data with the chopsticks to mimic a catch. And apparently it actually did. And they had a couple of procedures. They reinitiated the water deluge system around the time of the catch, which kind of implies that the catch is going to happen right over the OLM, not to a side. And the chopsticks did, in fact, get into the catch position and close. So, they've got that data. We got that one landing right now with the booster. They've got actually, good data for that as well. Pending something that pops up, or maybe they run into an issue with the FAA as far as getting that part of the license, because that's something obviously big change from what we've seen in the past. But I would not put it past them that they're going to go for it anyway. And, we'll see.
It's going to be crazy. And one of the things I noticed on this last launch, it wasn't as busy. And so I feel like the next launch, if they do that, it's probably going to be crazy.
Yeah, I think the one thing everybody's hoping for is that the mist and the fog stays away so we can actually see it.
Tell me about it. It was horrible. By the way, here is a new design. Thanks to Sunline Products, Scott Carr, we've made some different shirt designs for each flight. And I'm going to put this link in the comments here because we are doing a run until, let's see when the deadline is. let's see, I think it's until like June 20th. And so basically, if you are interested in having this new design, you can see stats and details about the flight. And we've had a few orders so far, but I thought that I would just let you guys know about that. Joe wore my IFT3 shirt when he posed with Elon. That was pretty cool. So hopefully you guys like it. I'm fortunate enough that I have a team, at least for the merchandise aspect, that kind of does this behind the scenes. So if you guys noticed, Elon's shirt, the back of his shirt was, stats and facts about the Raptor. And so, this kind of a similar vibe. But
yeah, very cool. And you even got the one engine out for the Super Heavy.
Yeah, so it might be kind of hard to read, but basically we have Starship Flight 4, soft water Starship landing at 51 minutes, Starship's re-entry with HD live stream video using Starlink. You can see the one engine out there. And then I had this added, then it happened, the little flap that could and did. So, that was kind of the joke, is like the little flap that could, that's what Thomas the Train engine reference, right?
Yeah.
And so we have liftoff 7:50 a.m. on June 6th. There was a discrepancy with the date, which was not my doing, but we fixed it. So anyway, just thought I'd put that out there, but I think it's a cool design, and hopefully you guys like it.
Very cool. Is there anything on the back?
So this is the back.
Oh, okay.
What's on the front? Just my logo.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. But hopefully you guys like it. And we had another question, and I need to find the post, but any news on the changes to design of heat shield tiles? And I thought that I saw Elon had said something about that. So let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, while you're looking at that, it's kind of a fairly significant change. I was holding this up again. This is from Ship 24, and it's one of the heat shield tiles, and it kind of looks like styrofoam. It's very light. You would think, that it might be styrofoam, but it's sort of like a ceramic composite weaved kind of material. And if you looked at this with a microscope, you'd see like filaments of hair all in, put together, and a lot of space in between. And that space is important to try to, deal with the heat and not have a lot of heat, control the heat transfer from one side to the other. And he mentioned and also these tiles, they're held on by clips onto the ship. And between the stainless steel and this, they have like a white fabric kind of material. It's a heat retardant or heat insulating kind of material. And what Elon said is that they're going to, starting with Ship 30 right now, that's in the Mega Bay, is they're going to remove the heat shield tiles and that matting, and they're going to put a new tile that's twice as strength. And I don't think it means twice the heat capability. I think it means twice the mechanical strength of it, so that, clearly this one broke, and we've seen a lot of them break. So I think that they want to try to prevent them from breaking. But in addition to that, that ablative material behind it, and ablative is kind of like what we see with capsules, where it burns and chars off and takes the heat away. And I think it's kind of a two-stage process to try to, control that, the heating that they're getting. The one thing he did not mention here is what are they doing with the flap to body interface, where there's that opening to let the flaps move. And that's what we saw with the problem with the flap. So,
and by the way, thank you, Ohio Pat, for ordering a shirt. I hope that you enjoy it. And Ross did add that tiles are going to be twice the strength with an ablative layer underneath on Ship 30, like you just said. So hopefully it'll help. I mean, hopefully, things go successfully. I know that as we were watching the launch live, we weren't sure how successful it actually was until obviously the end. And so they're going to attempt a lot on this next one if they actually do it.
I take this as kind of an iterative approach for them too. I don't think that this is the end solution, but I think it's a solution that they're going to test out and see, does it work? What are the pros? What are the cons of it? I mean, possibly could add more weight. So that may not be a good thing, but if it makes the ship survive. And if they're going to be taking, I'm assuming that they've already been working on this, but if they're going to take Ship 30's tiles completely off and redo that, that's going to take a period of time. And I don't think it's going to happen in a week. It's probably going to be weeks of work. So we will see how that goes. And that may go into that, launch in a month kind of thing.
What do you think about this comment? Isn't going the ablative way, meaning going back to the space shuttle era?
Well, the space shuttle didn't use ablative either. They used tiles and also those heat matting, kind of that fabric in certain places.
And as Elon pointed out too, they would need, maybe 6 months of refurbishment with a large team. And so what SpaceX is doing is, quite different.
Right. Well, they're trying to seek a solution that is effective, cost effective, doesn't need a lot of maintenance, can survive multiple flights with minimal amount of work. And, they tried the first one with these tiles and that fabric, and it worked, but there's some issues. So now they're going to try something else, and we'll see how this goes. And I think they're going to eventually coalesce into a solution that meets those engineering requirements. But they're in that process right now.
Right. And one of the other slides that I should probably pull up here is this idea that we will probably see more launches closer together due to this test-induced damage exception. We've talked about it before, but we're thinking that we should have no issues getting another launch license, right?
I don't think so. I mean, these test-induced damage exceptions, actually all three of them were tested, and the ship actually exhibited some of those through this launch. So I don't see a problem with that. The FAA and the previous three launches immediately said a mishap investigation was warranted and they were starting one. For this flight, they said that that's not the case. They're going to do some additional research to determine that. So I think that's actually a very positive sign, which means that it met these requirements and all the other requirements to make sure that they're safe. The only thing that may be, I don't know, difficult, but may take some time to work through is the fact that if they actually do the catch, that's a significant change to the flight profile. So they may want to look at that to find out what's involved and make sure that they're okay with going in for that catch at this point in time. And I would expect the flight profile will have more items as well, as they now want to build on what they did at 4 and do other stuff. It may be more fuel or propellant transfers. It may be trying that payload door again. It may be, they need to show that they can do the deorbit burn, so they may add that to it. So they're going to be adding complexity back into the profile, and that's going to have to see what the FAA has to say with that.
Right. You might, I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Johan writes, do you hear that echo?
Not really.
Hi there, Sweden here. Congrats on the 100,000. Waiting to get something from YouTube now to put on the wall. That is correct. What type of camera is there on Starship? We had great quality. So obviously a lot of that quality was due to Starlink, but do you know anything more about the actual cameras?
I don't know specifically what they are using, but I do know that they had them on different parts of the ship, and they actually had heat towels around them to try to protect them. It wouldn't surprise me if they are some kind of variation of off-the-shelf thing, like maybe a GoPro or something else that they've adopted or adapted for that. And they mounted some on the fins and some of them right on the body. Clearly, they were expecting something with at least one of the fins so that they, put that camera in one place. But when you were talking to Elon, he clearly said, and a couple of the other SpaceX guys said as well, that they want to add more cameras. So maybe we'll get even more views on the next flight.
That would be awesome. Let's see here. There was a good comment. If I can find it. Would love to know what happened to the area where they took away tiles to test what would happen. I don't think, have we gotten much data on that publicly?
Not right now, but they purposely, the ones that were missing on purpose, it looked like there was 3. One of them had a different kind of tile, and I don't know if it was part of that ablative test or if it was just a different kind of tile. And then the other two didn't have the tiles at all. They put sensors there. And it was kind of on the lower skirt, and right behind where that stainless steel is was one of the RVACs. So if it had burnt through, it would have had to then burn through the RVAC as well before it got into the inside. So they kind of planned that ahead. But obviously the ship made it through. One of the things that we did notice on the live stream is when it did the flip and burn, we didn't get the indications of the engines. So it's possible that maybe that affected some of the sensors that would have given that indication, but not enough to prevent the actual engines from firing. So I hope that we get some more data on that, because that's very interesting.
Right. And let me see if I can pull up
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
By the way, that banshee kind of wail that you heard is all the pneumatics spinning up the turbines to get ready to start the engines.
Oh my gosh. And it was so freaking loud.
Yes.
Like, it was
Vehicle is pitching
in
down
person. Wow. Crazy loud.
That's because it was so humid. That's why we had all the clouds and the mist. It would really transferred the sound.
It was incredible. Let's see. We have some questions. Some people are asking, "Who are you, Joe?"
Hi, I'm Joe Tagmire.
Joe has covered every single launch from the roof of Margaritaville with me, and he also knows a lot more about this stuff, the technical, side of rockets. And basically, you are the answer to all of my questions in the field. So you're the brains and I'm the cheerleader. I don't know. Joe has been a great help.
I think we make a good team. I think our strengths and weaknesses complement each other.
Yeah, and Joe covers the construction and progress of Giga Texas full time. He does drone work, and so but he also, you wanted to be an astronaut, so you have a lot of experience in this field. So yeah, what else can we say? We have another question. Any recommendations for places to stay in Boca Chica? There are a lot of options. South Padre Island is where most people stay, where most people watch it. Isla Blanca Park is where a lot of people congregate to watch it. And a lot of the hotels, you can get a balcony that's facing a Starship. And so there's quite a few options, and I've made a couple videos on this, so go investigate my channel.
Right. And if you don't want to get there, Port Isabel is another option as well, maybe a little bit less as far as hotels and spots, but that is an option as well.
Right. When do you think SpaceX will put Starship into a full orbit, multiple orbits around the Earth?
I think it's going to be a few more tests, because they want to do a free return orbit just in case something happens, and they don't want to get the ship stuck in orbit and then have an uncontrolled reentry. So I think we're going to see, this is my guess, but we're going to see at least a couple more going into the Indian Ocean, trying to repeat their success with Flight 4 and build on that and just show that the heat shield works. They'll probably do a deorbit burn as a test to prove that they can do that in orbit. And I think they also want to get a more precise landing and do it a couple of times so they can verify that. So that's my guess.
That's our crystal ball prediction. Yeah. Well, we don't have a crystal ball. But yeah, we see some more comments. Congrats on 100K. It's very crazy. The last few days, it has been quite a whirlwind, and I'm actually still tired, believe it or not. Penny writes, "Hi, Ellie. Congrats on the recent interview and 100K. It really was a very exciting, long, unexpected, serendipitous in many ways day. So thank you for congratulating me, and thank you to Elon for making time. I mean, he really didn't have to do that. And so that meant a lot to talk to him on such a successful day for the Starship program. I think we're going to look back at this day, and it's going to be really memorable. So,
well, you could tell he had a lot on his mind, but he was also kind of trying to process what he had just seen,
right.
Through his answers to you, you could see he's kind of thinking, okay, what about this? What about that? And some of the off-camera stuff too. I think he was excited about what happened, but he was focused on the next thing. And, he was looking at, okay, we have these 5 challenges that we really need to work on. And his brain was already on those.
Well, and he had a party to go to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it was really cool. I played the clip earlier of the comment about the infinite selfie loop.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you. Greg writes, Elon was fortunate to have been interviewed by you. That is a nice way to put it. I really do feel like it was a privilege and a very special moment. And hopefully we get more time in the future. My goal, another question was asked, what am I doing now? And I want to be more educated in the subject matter and a little bit more of an expert. Obviously Tim Dodd has taken many years to not only educate himself, but educate the public, bring this, down to earth. And so I'm hoping that the next time, if I do get the opportunity, that I can, have a little bit more confidence going into the conversation.
Well, there's also the aspect that you got to figure out, what is he thinking at that time? What is the best question? And you can't, I've seen some people comment, well, you should have asked these 40 different questions.
I know.
You only have amount of time that you're given, and you got to go with it.
Yeah, there's been mostly congratulations, mostly a lot of positivity, but there have been some people that have said I didn't I didn't ask the right questions, or I didn't wear the right thing, or I should have done this differently. And it's like, well, go ahead and do your own interview.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, we got a chance to see it in person, and if you ask a question he doesn't want to answer, you won't get an answer, and you move on.
Yes. And I didn't put it in the video, which I wonder if I should or shouldn't have. Just that when we brought up when I brought up Artemis, and he said no comment.
Right. I don't know. I think your next interview, maybe you'll be able to ask that, but he's got a lot on his mind, and there's various different audiences that he would be talking to. And I think he didn't really want to get into that one. Yeah.
Right. Well, and maybe he would be able to talk about it next time, but maybe there's just things that he can't get into. And so it's easier just to cut it off, because obviously NASA is involved, government's involved. So it's, I still think it would have been a good question. It was a little bit of a spicy question. I didn't even get out the full question, which was like, did SpaceX just return to the moon on their own? And,
Yeah, well, maybe in a future video we can explore that. I have my own feelings about that.
Okay, so we have 2 options. I have a bit of time before my BBC interview, but I have a very bad headache right now. So I'm either going to go downstairs, take some Tylenol, and you can talk to the people for like 5 minutes, or I might need to cut it close. But we have like over 3,000 people watching, so I think I probably should just get Tylenol and power on. Well, I sent you a private chat, but I don't think you saw it.
Well, I can. I don't know if I can see. How would I see the questions or
Oh, you can't see the comments on your stream?
I see one, but I can't control them. I don't.
Oh, well, that's okay. I mean, I won't be gone long, but let me go grab some Tylenol, because
okay.
Yes, and maybe some caffeine. So, Joe, take it away.
All right. Well, I guess what we can talk about while Ellie's off screen is, what we saw during Flight 4 and what we think we're going to build on. As far as the ship, I think it did extremely well. The Raptors, both the RVACs and the Sea Levels, did what they needed to do. They did the hot staging. They got it up into that pseudo-orbital location. They showed that they had much more control over the ship with the upgrades to the thrusters, the additions, and also preventing the ice buildup. They were able to position it accurately for that re-entry, get the right orientation. It's very important to have the ship, pitched up and stable with those heat shield sides facing the direction of travel to maximize that drag. We got a chance to see some incredible views as it was going through the atmosphere, demonstrating that control despite some control surface issues, and they were able to get all the way back down and then remarkably do the flip and burn and do a landing. And so I think those are all positive things to build on for the next flight. As far as the boosters concerned, all 33 launched or ignited on launch initially. They did lose one shortly after liftoff, but they were able to continue all the way up to hot staging, and it really didn't seem like it affected the mission too much. I think that was partly because having 33 engines gives you a engine out capability. They can just throttle up some of the other engines to compensate. In fact, I think there was a really good view of the bottom of the booster with all the engines lit as it was ascending to the skies. And you could see that the opposite engine on the other side, pretty much diametrically opposed, was throttled down to help compensate from some of that, the torque or the gimbaling effect that you would have with one engine out and the other one's on. So they demonstrated those two capabilities. They also had a little bit lower propellant load, about one ring worth less than normal, so it reduced the mass. So they were able to do that. Their avionics, their software did exceptionally well, and I think that's for me, since this was pretty much for data for this flight, I think that was really encouraging to see, and I'm sure that they got some really great data and experience with how the ship, or the booster in this case, performed. And of course, after the hot staging, did the 13 engines for the boost back. That was a full duration. That's going to be important for moving into the future, especially if they go for the catch, because they're going to most likely have to extend that boost back burn a few more seconds so that they can reach all the way back to the launch facility and be able to be in a position for that catch. And then, of course, being controlled all the way down through the atmosphere as the densities were changing, see the grid fins work, and then positioning for the landing burn. And of course, they lost another engine during the landing burn, but they were able to continue and successfully do that landing. I think we got a good idea of when they're going to put the engines on. It's almost at the very last second. That was a little surprising, but if you look at just how much fuel that they have, they kind of need to do that. They don't have enough to burn for a very long time. But I think that was all very successful as well. And so that's a lot to build on. And then earlier we talked about how the ground support facilities are surviving and what they have to continue to do to iterate to get it to a point where it can do the rapid reuse. And of course, we saw that they did the deluge system, and the chopsticks arms actually did attempt to catch it at the same time. So a lot of promising results from Flight 4, and I expect them to continue to build that on for Flight 5 and then expand. Go ahead.
Thank you for waiting.
No problem. No problem. Hopefully that was helpful.
I got a little bit of coffee and some Tylenol because for some reason my head started hurting really bad, and
that's because I'm giving you all this.
No, it was before that. I think I'm just still kind of coming down from the high of the events, and I still haven't gotten enough sleep the last 2 nights. So anyway, that usually contributes to headaches. Ross asks, do you know who at the BBC is going to interview you, Ellie, if you don't mind me asking? I guess it's a series called BBC Sideways, and it's about space ethics. So they're going to ask me about sort of my connection to SpaceX and Brownsville and, what's going on down there. So we'll see. Hopefully I do okay. Yeah, but I have that at 2:30. So we have a little bit more time, and, I do have a somewhat of a part 2 coming out. There were a couple questions that I withheld from the Elon interview. So I'm going to make a separate video and you'll see what the topic is. But basically, and then I still have to finish my Jared Isaacman interview. So I've edited the entire conversation because, you know, there's ums and uhs and stuff that you have to take out. I have that whole discussion up on my Patreon right now. So, you know, if you're a Patreon, you can watch it if you really want to hear what he has to say, but I still have to sort of edit the polished version for YouTube. But it was amazing to talk to Jared as well.
Yeah. You know, the thing about him, I think most people, I hope that people get from him is, you know, he's not just somebody that's paying some money to go for a ride. He has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. He's an accomplished pilot. He's obviously already been to space once. I think he takes everything extremely seriously. Not only the risks and everything, but also what they want to achieve. I'm really glad to see him doing this. I think he's a great ambassador for the Polaris Dawn and for commercial astronauts as that continues to take off as well. So, you know.
Well, and I noticed that he followed me back on X, which, I mean, like, I was just like, oh, he must have liked the interview. I was, you know, not to like toot my own horn, but I was like, wow, that's really cool that, you know, I've gone from basically a nobody in this sort of, you know, space community to, I feel like I'm maybe making a name for myself, and I shouldn't doubt myself.
You know, I don't know if you know this story or not, but about a year and a half ago or so, you actually reached out to me and you wanted to interview me at Giga Texas, but I had already left. So you were there and I was gone.
I remember.
And at that time, I thought you were like this enormous personality on YouTube. And I'm like, dang, I missed an opportunity. And you were actually just getting started at that time, kind of like me. So, you know, it's kind of funny how that all came back together.
Well, I remember circling back with you trying to schedule something, and it was just when I had moved here and you didn't answer me. And I was like, oh, this guy like doesn't like me or whatever. Like, I don't know why he's not answering me. I must have made a wrong impression. Then I broke my leg and you and Anne came to the hospital the day after my surgery and brought me balloons and flowers. And I was like, oh, like, again, you know, thinking that people don't like me or whatever, and not the case. We all have our own, you know, insecurities to work on. But yeah, it's interesting how we've sort of become quite close through just circumstances. And, you know, I think,
you were interviewing me and a drone almost hit us. So.
Yeah, there's that too. Someone we went to dinner. I told the story already, but you know, there's always a photographer at some of these restaurants that goes around and takes like keepsake photos of you during your dinner, and then they try to sell it to you. And so we were there with a couple friend that we have, and she took a photo of them and she's like, oh, you know, take a photo. Is this your husband? And we're like, no. And then
I'm your grandfather.
he said he could be my dad. And she was like, give a kiss to Papa. I just can't get over it. It was so awkward and hilarious. Joe and I are not dating, for the record. A lot of people have speculated that too. I have a boyfriend and very happy in a relationship. But Joe, you're an amazing friend and partner in crime. And for some reason, every time we go down to Starbase, we're able to pull off things that I think are impossible. So
I think it's just a lot of fun, you know, and going down without like a hard plan of we will do this and this at this time has proven time and time again to be worth it. Just go down and go with the flow, and it's amazing.
It's actually, I think, a good lesson for everyone. And some of the circumstances that I've had, you know, even when I drove to AI Day from Portland to, you know, the Bay Area, not with a ticket, completely on a whim. And I think proximity is everything. And so, you know, being in the right place at the right time, sometimes you have to like put in the effort to position yourself. That's a big reason why I moved to Texas, because I was like, hey, you know, Tesla is headquartered here. SpaceX is down south. You know, I really want to interview Elon eventually. All these reasons. probably makes sense for me to be in Texas. And here I am. Bimmer Geezer with another super chat. Did you buy Joe dinner as I asked? I did buy him one of the Subway meals. We had Subway like 5 or 6 times. I had Subway like 5 or 6 times in a row. Like I think I had it 6 times in a row, which is scary.
Yeah. Well, we were actually dinner somewhere else, and out of the blue, somebody paid for our dinner.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was right. But one of the Subways, I did buy you dinner.
Yes, you did.
Or lunch, and you were like, "Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, "I don't know, to be nice. I don't know." But thank you for the donation. And just to make it clear, this person says hard friend zone. I don't think Joe has any nefarious reasons. We are fine being friends.
I'm just glad that I get the opportunity to talk about things that I know about, I like, and I like to share it. And, what I do with Giga Texas, but also with the space is I just have an idea that it would be great if people were excited about what's going on and understand the context behind what you're seeing. And since I have a little bit to offer, I'm glad to be able to do that. And you're helping me with that. So I appreciate it.
Where'd you get that shirt?
It's actually RGV Ariel.
Oh, it's nice. It's really cool.
I'm kind of rocking it from the back. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh yeah.
But it's their new shirt, and I liked it. And I thought we were going to talk about heat shields, so I thought it would be perfect.
What do the tiles say?
They just have numbers on them.
Okay.
Because I think the tiles are actually numbered. It's hard to see on here, but there is a serial number on it. See that?
Oh wow. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Do you plan to attend every Starship launch for this year? If everything works out, yes. For example, on July 20th, I'm in a STEM themed fashion show. I know, crazy, right? So if it's July 20th, I won't be able to make it. But basically, Starship really does take priority. That's why I've been to every launch. And so we'll do our best to be at every launch. I think both of us can agree to that.
I'm going to try my best.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Gregory. He says, congrats on a good boyfriend. Not a felon. Oh my God, I have to laugh at that. It's been almost a year since I was on Kill Tony. And if you don't know the reference, just look up episode 620. And he's willing to wear a silly hat while having a serious conversation about Disneyland. I made a video about my experience at Tokyo Disneyland. And so it's on my second channel, Elevated, but seems like some of you guys like that. So thank you for watching that. It's always nice to make a video that's kind of off brand and just about something different. But thank you. I do have a great boyfriend and I'm very thankful for him. And fashion show, it should be fun. Very much looking forward to that. But it sounds like, we don't know. Elon said the launch could be in about a month. So, it could be before July 20th, but it could also not be. We'll see.
I think that they have, especially with the high heat shields on ship 30, they have a ways to go, I think.
Yeah. And thank you, Tin Man. He is keeping up with, plugging my Patreon, and here's my other channel, Elevated. My cousin helped me come up with that name, like Elevated. I don't know. But the Disney video is doing pretty well considering that channel is basically, a nothing channel so far. But it's interesting. I made some Disney content on Instagram, and the first reel I made has 1.1 million views.
Wow.
And the other one has like 240,000 views. So I was like, okay, like maybe it's worth making other content. But thank you guys for checking it out. It's a little bit more of a fun side of me. Wow, we have a lot of people watching. That's pretty crazy. One of the things I wonder is like how soon I'm going to get that wonderful silver plaque.
I don't know.
On YouTube.
I don't know. It'd be a long time before I get one of those, so I can't really tell you. But
yeah, if everyone can go subscribe to Joe, like you deserve a much bigger presence. Not that it's about that, but go subscribe to Joe's channel. Joe does some great work, and I've been noticing it seems like you've been putting out more kind of space related or SpaceX content.
Yeah, I'm still doing Giga Texas 3 times a week, and there's still a lot going on there. While we were down at Starbase, the Boring Company surfaced their tunnel. They're putting an extension of the south end of Giga Texas, and that's going to be we just learned it's 50,000 H100 supercomputer cluster, and of course all of the cooling system that's being put in to be able to handle the heat. So that's going on. We have the shareholders meeting coming up on Thursday, and that has the potential of being kind of rocking with a lot of, drama.
Are you going?
I'm going to do some, yeah.
But are you going to be in the shareholder meeting?
Yes, I am.
Oh, nice. Yeah, some people have asked me if I'm going, and I actually didn't apply because my mindset is I've been to Giga Texas 3 times, and I should let someone else have that slot since they do cap it. So I will not be there.
I'm
But
taking my nephew, so that's going to be cool.
yeah.
But so Giga Texas is going to take a lot of my time anyway, but I really want to try to do other stuff too. And space is my background and what I'm really interested in. And I would like there's a lot more that I would like to get out on that. So I'm kind of starting to introduce more of that right now.
Yep. Stephen, what is the vote about? Whether or not Elon's going to get paid.
Yeah, the Elon composition plan and also the redomestication from Delaware to Texas are the two kind of the hot button topics right now.
Right. And maybe if you could, for people that aren't familiar with Tesla or what exactly is going on, can you just summarize this whole compensation battle?
Well, in a nutshell, back in 2018, the shareholders were put to a vote and they approved a compensation package that had, I think, 10 tranches of things that had to be achieved in order for Elon to get paid, if you will. And over the next 4 years, they successively met them all. So he got all of his compensation completed, and all of the process that went along with that, whether it was Tesla accounting for that, him getting the share, all that has taken place. And somewhere along the way, a single shareholder that had 9 shares got, put it this way, some lawyers found him and they decided to put a suit against this, saying that the shareholders didn't know what they were voting on. And they found they had to do this in Delaware because Tesla, along with a lot of other companies, incorporate into Delaware because some of the laws and the experience that they have with large corporations. But anyway, at a Delaware court, the judge decided that, it was really bad and overturned it. So now that process, the legal process, is continuing right now. And along the way, the Tesla board has put this back out for shareholders now to reapprove it. And the vote is going to be announced, the results of that on Thursday at the shareholders meeting. So we'll find out.
I guess I don't understand. I'd be surprised if it doesn't get approved. Is there really this question of whether or not it will?
Yeah, well, you have 2 kind of big lumps of shareholders. You have retail, and then you have institutional investors. And institutional are kind of like if there's brokerages, or if you have people that you buy stock from, they have them all grouped together. Maybe it's mutual funds, that kind of stuff. And then retail is people like you and me just buying shares on our own. And it's roughly 50-50% as far as how many are institutional, how many are retail for owning that. So for a couple of the votes, like for example, with the redomestication, which is moving the Tesla corporation from Delaware's rules to Texas's rules, I think they need to have a majority of all outstanding shares, which is a kind of a high hurdle to reach. For the compensation, on the other hand, it's the majority of shareholders that vote. And I think both Elon and Kimball, who are shareholders, are not eligible to vote. So you have to subtract them out, and then it's everything else. So they need to get 50% plus 1 of the people that are voting to be able to approve that. So each of the votes have different rules, and that's another thing that's kind of making it complicated. And on the institutional and retailers, it sounds like the retail investors are overwhelmingly for it. but many institutionals well, there's some of them are vocally saying that they're going to vote against it for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that, but I don't think I've been following it as closely
Yeah.
as most people.
I
I
think,
voted
yeah.
yes. I
Yeah.
voted yes.
I think the funny or the way you can almost think about it is it's almost like if you went to a store and you bought a bunch of stuff and it's on your credit card, and then later on you came back. I mean, you've already bought it. It's a bill. You need to pay it. And say you actually paid the bill, and then you come back later and say, no, I don't want to. I'm going to unpay it. It doesn't seem right to me, especially the fact that the group of people that voted for this in 2018 are no longer the same group now. And all of that has already taken place. So how are you going to undo everything? And by the way, along the way, Tesla's stock went up a lot. So a lot of people made a lot of money. So how do you undo that they made the money on that? So it just seems ridiculous to me and a lot of people, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, Val wants to know, what are some of the reasons that those institutions would vote against it?
Yeah, well, some of them are saying, and to me, this is not my argument. It doesn't seem sensical to me, but they said that, yeah, well, between 2018 and 2022, things went really well, but since then, it's not gone very well. The stock's down, the performance hasn't been good. All that's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of like saying, you have some sports teams that won the championship and they were great back 2 years ago, but now they aren't very good. So we need to take everything away from them because they're not doing well today. And that's just not how it works. And I think Kathy Wood had a pretty good argument about this too. She was pointing out that between 2018 and 2022 or so, Ford and GM spent $4.6 billion on advertising. And in that same period of time, Tesla didn't do any advertising, but their valuation went up tremendously. How do you then come back and say it's not worth the compensation package? The arguments that are being made to me seem more today focused, based on personalities or just feelings of what's happened today. And they're retroactively trying to change decisions that have already been made. But that's just my opinion.
Right. Well, it should be interesting. And I think that, that was probably on Elon's mind during our interview as well. There's got to be a lot on that man's mind.
Yeah. So, and part of the drama for Thursday is not only what is the vote, but how does Elon react to the vote? And I think that's what everybody's waiting to see.
Right. This is a good thing to maybe try to accomplish. What are the chances you could get a tour inside the Dragon spacecraft? I don't know, but that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I think the only thing, I guess it is possible. And maybe if you continue to interview and know Jared or whatever, but all the Dragons right now are operational. They're being used and prepared for missions or in actual, being used. So I don't know if they would want to have tourists get into them while they are training and doing preparation.
Well, maybe not get in, but, if there's, I guess you're right. Someday in the future, to film around it or something.
Right.
And DJ Potrose says, Joe, that is a great summary of the situation. Thank you. Thank you for the summary that I could not give. Any updates on the Starliner?
The biggest update is that they extended the mission to the 18th right now, pending weather on the return. But they did that because there's a scheduled spacewalk that's going to be happening it's actually the day after they would have undocked, but I think they didn't want to have everything together. They wanted to simplify. So that's going on. I know that they've been doing some press events showing the capsule, walking through it. And as far as have they fixed the helium leaks? Are there any other issues? I have not heard anything on that whatsoever. The helium is important for pressurizing the hypergolic tanks for the thrusters. It basically pushes that material out so that it can ignite and make the thrusters work. So they do need to have the helium, but I don't know. Beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah, and one thing that was interesting too, after we interviewed Jared Isaacman with Polaris Dawn, he said that he had just finished training in the spacesuits. So speaking of spacewalks and such, Jared will be a part of the first private commercial spacewalk, which will be very exciting. And they're hoping to launch no earlier than July 12th. So it's coming up fast. And I'm actually shocked they were able to make any time for us, let alone 30 minutes. We had double the amount of time with Jared as we had with Elon. So again, that video is coming out soon, but if you want to watch it now and the whole discussion, I don't know if I'm going to put the whole discussion in the video. It's on my Patreon. I wanted to play a fun little game in the comments. If you guys want to guess what the sort of part 2 of my Elon interview, what is the not space related topic that I talked to him about very briefly, let me know in the comments, because I don't know, I just want to see what you guys guess. So I talked to him a little bit about another subject that, he's indicated interest in. And so what do you guys think in the comments? Oh my gosh, we already have pretty good guess. Yeah. So, wow, we're seems like people are already guessing what it is. So we have upcoming Tesla vote, Cybertruck, is he an actual alien? Did you ask about X? Babies, kids, family, Neuralink, Elon's thoughts on population, yep, babies. Some of you guys already got it right. So
and nobody's asking about the boring tunneling that's going on in Giga Texas. That's pretty
boring.
Cool.
It's boring. It's not boring, but some of you guys already got it right. It has to do with, the what does it mean to be a father? Why do you care about the declining birth rate? So hopefully you guys enjoy it. That's another thing I need to edit. So I have a lot of.
When's that coming out?
As soon as I can edit it and get around to it. I don't want to rush good work.
That's actually something kind of funny people have said about me with my flying the drone at Giga Texas and everything, is they think that as soon as the drone lands, it's done and I just release the video. And there is a lot that goes into getting the card out of the drone and having a video that I can put out. And the same thing for you. So. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is you can rush something or you can take the time to give a little bit more context. It's one thing just to publish the conversation with Jared, but I want to intro it a little bit more. I want to have some voice recording and B-roll. So it's kind of more interesting to the viewer. So that is part of why we take our time with these things.
And then it hasn't, knock on wood, it hasn't happened in a while, but there was a period of time that you would upload your video to YouTube and it would get almost done and then it would crash and then you'd have to start all over again.
For me or you?
For me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, it takes an hour and a half to upload the video because I do everything in 4K and stuff. And at the very end, it just goes into the infinite loop and you have to just do another one.
The infinite loop of selfies?
No, yeah, exactly. The infinite loop of YouTube not finishing the upload.
I thought that was so funny when he said that. He was the thing is, and I was telling the viewers and fans watching earlier, is immediately I was like, that didn't go well. He doesn't like me and I'm never going to get an interview again. And then I started editing in my hotel room and I had to watch the interview, probably 10 times to edit the thing. And so I was like, oh, I actually don't think that he seemed
Yeah, I think after the interview, and then we went over to, I think, a Starbucks to get the files and all that stuff. The entire time you're like, this is horrible. It went bad. And I'm like, no, I think it went good.
I was like, dude, I blew it. But I don't think so anymore.
Nope.
Although I probably won't wear heels next time because I was, pretty tall.
I'll be honest. I'm glad I don't have to ever wear heels because they don't look very comfortable.
They're not. But they can make you feel really pretty.
I don't think so. Not for me, anyway. I think it would look weird.
Yeah. Here's a question from Jose. How much of a boost in subscribers did your appearance in Kill Tony give you? Not that much. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about, I was on a live comedy show here in Austin about a year ago, actually. And so that episode definitely has over 1 million views and a lot of traction. But I think I saw some new subscribers, a lot to my Instagram as well, but nothing compared to this bump that I've had from Elon. I mean, the growth of my channel, and let's just check while we're, sitting here. The video has 731,000 views. So that's the most recent update. It is obviously 1 out of 10. I published it June 7th. So it's been up for 4 days. Average view duration, surprisingly, is a little less than 5 minutes. But impressions, click-through rate, if you guys know anything about YouTube analytics, it's doing very well. And as of last check, I'm at almost 106,000 subscribers. Like, I'm like kind of shocked, and it almost puts a little bit of a pressure of like, oh, the next video better be good because now I have all these new people. But it's like, nope, just, do what you've done to get you here. So
I don't know if you saw or not, but we did I did a reaction video of us after the booster and put it out there, and May Musk liked it too.
Yeah, that is very cool. It was interesting too. I saw several people comment about my interview with Elon, and he liked almost all of those posts. So Tesla Economics, or I don't know how to say it, did like a synopsis. Elon liked it. He also wrote something like, "This is why the media should be scared, because you can have a citizen journalist with a cell phone and, good mics and questions." And Elon liked that too. So I was like, okay, good. Because that's been kind of my message that, I wasn't sure if he knew about, was like, hey, I literally quit my job in news, which I feel like is, failing in many ways, to cover what I think is inspiring, such as the SpaceX story full time, and, really take a leap of faith in being self-employed and not having consistent revenue, or, it's like a lot of sort of risks, but I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah. It's sort of a current thing right now, but I'm wondering how this is going to play out. I don't know if you saw or not, but the last 24 hours, Elon's kind of been on a Apple is bad rant, and he's saying if anybody comes in with Apple products, I'm not going to let them in. Well, that would affect you and me.
Right. Oh my gosh, I know, right? Here's a good question. Ellie, what did you like best about what you brought to your interview? I think that I liked that it was a rare dynamic with Elon, which is that we commonly see him be interviewed by men, whether it's on Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, even, Don Lemon recently, news networks. You don't really see someone like a young female sort of talk to him. So I think it was like an interesting dynamic. And I think, my experience being a journalist, but also trying to have like a relaxed conversation, made it clearly interesting. And yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's a different dynamic. And, someone was saying that it might be a little bit disarming to have like, a female in front of him instead of a male, because, sometimes we can see Elon be quite abrupt, and, if he didn't necessarily agree with my question, he wasn't super harsh about it. And so I think, it was interesting.
I think one of the things maybe he liked too is that, the interview wasn't a for sure thing, and there was a lot of ebbs and flows that day. Was it going to happen? Was it not going to happen? And you really stick to it. And I think that he appreciates that in people, because, a lot of people would just say, well, I tried, but it didn't happen. But you were making it clear, I'm here, I'm ready. Just let me know when I can come over there. And I think that he appreciates that.
Yeah, well, I've heard that he persistence is something that he, admires in someone versus is just annoyed by. And with someone who's as busy as he is, you don't want to be overbearing, but you kind of have to be the squeaky wheel that finally gets the grease. And I will say this, I have seen a lot of comments about introducing Ellie Musk and Ellie's pregnant and I'm not, and those comments are ridiculous. So I'm a journalist, I'm a reporter. This has been a big career milestone, and it was a very respectable interview, and I'm excited to do it again. I mean, there's so many things that I would like to ask him, like not even space related things. And I was thinking about, how he's been on SNL and how funny that episode was. And I don't know, just it's interesting. A lot of people have the parasocial relationship with me where they come up to me down at Starbase and say, "Hey, Ellie, I watch you all the time. I know this, that, your cat's names, your boyfriend's name, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Okay, who are you?" I've never seen your face. And then it's kind of the same thing with Elon. Obviously I've been following him for a very long time. I support what he's doing. And so it was like, I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you formally." And
well, I think now that you've done that, I think you will get another one. And the key, I think, on the other one is hopefully it'll happen when not, we didn't just launch a rocket, or there's a huge shareholder meeting coming up a couple of days from now. I hope it's something where it's a little bit less hectic and you can just sit down and maybe have a good hour or so and just ask a lot of questions.
Well, we thought that it would be at first, but on second thought, I am kind of glad that it was in the lobby because it was a really cool backdrop, conference room. The issue with that is it's kind of boring, it's kind of bland. And so I thought that, as much as I wanted more time or whatever, I'm very grateful. So, but I liked having like the engines right there. It was very cool.
Well, I don't know if you told everybody, but you actually got a tour of Star Factory, and there was a question of whether or not you would do a walking tour with Elon or not. I think in the end, it was probably good that you didn't, because it would be just so much dynamic rather than you just talking to him.
Yeah, no, it was really also interesting because I did have a tour of Starbase literally the day before. And so, I've seen it from the outside for years now, and to finally go inside the factory, it used to be a lot of tents, and see what's going on. My only I just kept thinking to myself, man, I wish that I could take pictures and video of this, and you're not allowed to. So it was very exciting and interesting, but obviously, I can't really say much about the tour because I can't. And so not only can I not show it to you guys, but I can't even really say a lot about it. And so,
well, fortunately, Tim's going to have a video out soon and give us a little bit of an insight. But, I think just generally, just overall there's a lot going on in there, and it's not just an empty structure, and that's pretty cool.
No. And the one thing that I will say, and I think I can just say this vaguely, is that seeing everything inside, this is, I don't know. It just gave me even more confidence in what SpaceX is doing. It gave me a lot of confidence in the team. And, these crazy goals that they want to achieve. I really do have full faith in them. Whereas, I think, I don't know, I'm trying not to give too much away, but I think what they're doing it's very interesting just to see, even from the outside, how it has transitioned from kind of not much in the middle of nowhere to, being a lot more built out and better working conditions for the employees. Obviously the tents were probably not the greatest, at least climate wise. And so, I think it was interesting too, because one of the questions I asked him was, it's not just a factory, you're kind of building a small city. And he didn't really want to call it a city. He said maybe more of a town. And so, but it is, they're making a lot of additions. They're working on a mall. So,
what I find sort of interesting is when you hear people talking about the Starship program in general, and they're like, well, maybe it won't work, or maybe this, or maybe that. you know, SpaceX wouldn't be building all of the stuff, the factory, the small town, the infrastructure, bringing in the people, building all these prototypes, doing all this. They wouldn't be doing that if they weren't serious and they're going to make this happen. And when you see the Star Factory, I think that just comes through, is that this is not going away. This is a big thing, and they're putting everything into it, and they're going to make it work.
Yeah, no, and it's I hope that at some point they have more publicly accessible tours, or some way for me to also do my own tour. Although
Yeah.
Tim will be having another one coming out soon, but
well, they said that they may be moving the display starships closer to the road, so that would be good.
Right. Here's a good question. What is your next big goal for Ellie in space? Well, I think it would be cool to talk to Jeff Bezos about Blue Origin, just because he doesn't really talk about it that much. I kind of like to set my sights on crazy big interviews, so that would be pretty cool. Obviously, I'm hoping that this interview with Elon hits 1 million views, just because I haven't had a long form video on YouTube hit 1 million views, and so that would be really cool.
I hope you get Gwen Shotwell. I think that would be an awesome interview.
I hope so too, but you were there with me. It sounds like she doesn't really like to do interviews. So
you know what? That doesn't mean that she can't. So
well, true, but I mean, I don't know.
Why not you?
It would be another thing that, would be interesting to explore. And a lot of people are like, why can't, you interview SpaceX people and they're just not allowed to talk? Is if there was someone, sort of like a Drew Baglino, who I was interviewing at the lithium refinery groundbreaking, that could speak on behalf of SpaceX, but have it not be Elon. Because obviously Elon's very busy, kind of hard to get a hold of. And it'd be great if we had someone who was, experienced with SpaceX, and that maybe still works for SpaceX. Whereas Tom Mueller, who I interviewed, first hire of SpaceX, incredibly important engineer, but he doesn't work for SpaceX anymore, so he can kind of talk about it. That'd be really cool. So I don't know if that's something that I can, arrange, but something that I'll look into for sure.
What about like doing a NASA administrator, or would you be interested in that?
I would be interested. I'd be interested. I think that watching some of the hearings and just some of the stuff that's maybe going on or not going on with NASA due to issues and delays and excuses. I don't know. It seems that there's a lot of negative commentary and critical reception of anything I do with NASA. So I think if I were to talk to certain people, I don't know, it'd be interesting. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Well, we did that one reaction to a congressional testimony, and you saw my reaction to it.
Right. Right. So I'm just kind of thinking like, okay, let's say I had an interview with Bill Nelson. I think the comments section would be a bloodbath. But would you consider visiting Tory Bruno at his ranch? Of course. That was one of the things that I talked about. Or I commented on his photo. He put a photo of him with a horse recently, and I said I would love to do an interview on horseback, and he liked it. So I don't know. It'd be awesome.
No, there's a lot too, because ULA is still for sale, from what I understand. It may end up being a Bezos company, so maybe your interview could be both. But cool. There's a lot at stake with what's going on with ULA, so it would be a really fascinating interview if you could.
Well, I'll ask you guys. I mean, would you guys want to see an interview with the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson? Is that something you're even interested in? I thought of reaching out actually to the Japanese billionaire that just canceled Dear Moon. What is it?
Miyake Izumi or so?
Yusaku Mizawa.
Mizawa, yeah.
Let's see. You guys would like to see an interview with Bill Nelson? Okay. Well, I thought there wouldn't be a lot of interest, but maybe there is. So we'll see. It was funny when I covered an AIAA conference. I literally was walking side by side with Bill Nelson and his assistants as he was leaving, like almost immediately. And I'm like, hey, I'm in DC for like 2 more days. Like, please, let's make something happen. And they never got back to me. So
Well, I hope you can, because at least Jordan from Angry Astronaut got to ask one question to Bill Nelson. So you got to at least be better than that.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I guess maybe my opinion has been tainted by what I see in the comments, but it's people sometimes ask too, like, well, why do you mainly cover SpaceX? And it's like, well, a lot of other topics just don't get a lot of interest. And so it's a lot of effort to put together a video and make interviews happen. And unfortunately, since this is my full-time job, I can't make a ton of videos that don't get any traction.
Yeah.
Well, not a good business strategy.
Sort of on the other end of the spectrum, but when we were down there this time, we ran into a bunch of people that are commercial companies that are doing support for space programs, and it's kind of a cottage industry that's growing because of what's going on with commercial space. And I think we're trying to do one of them to kind of get an idea of some of the work behind the scenes most people don't see, but maybe you can do a little bit more of that.
Yeah. No, we're definitely working on that. And, sometimes things are hit or miss. But yeah, it's obviously SpaceX is usually a winner and it's really exciting. Bill Nelson said, "Why are you angry?" to Jordan.
Yes, he did. Well, really? Jordan said, "Hey, Administrator Nelson, this is the angry astronaut." And he went, "The angry astronaut."
Oh my God. Tin Man says, we need interviews with Vast, Stoke, and others. I have reached out to both of those with no success. So I can reach out again, but a lot of these suggestions, I guess I'll say, I've tried. Sometimes it's very hard to get a hold of people, and we'll see. Hopefully now my 100,000 subscribers and Elon interview will give me some credibility, but there's a lot going on in the space industry right now, and
I think it's awesome. It's the second golden age of space.
Yeah, it is. There's so much, too much to keep up with for one person. But yeah, probably worth. That's the thing too, is like when I did the interview with Relativity, which also completely bombed for some reason. That took a year to set up, and it was, circling back. Hey, did you get my email? It's been 6 months. And so sometimes you just have to like circle back because life gets busy and people, forget.
Well, it might be interesting because, in with the last 24 hours or so, Elon commented on the idea of 3D printing rockets and about how successful or not that would be. And that's exactly what Relativity has attempted to do. And Relativity has kind of moved away from the full 3D printing. So it might be a good interview.
Yeah, right. Well, could be. Thank you, Ross. He says your Relativity space tour was still high quality. It was. And I drove all the way from Austin, Texas to Long Beach, California for that. So not that I had to, but I thought it would be fun to take a road trip in my Tesla and not to California. That is way too much charging. Yeah, maybe repost the Relativity video. I thought it was very good. It's not a bad idea. It's funny. It's like the people that like it are, the people that saw it, they really like it. And it's just sometimes a matter of getting people to watch the video. The people that are watching my Disney video on my other channel, they're like, oh, this is really great. But, there's so much content on YouTube and so many things competing for your attention. It's just a matter of, getting people to click.
Yeah, well, since Elon just talked about it, maybe it would be a good time to re-release it.
Let me see if I can find that. Was it today? It was.
I think it was yesterday when he was doing the Starlink live stream about his gaming.
I see.
And he talked about that.
I see. So okay, I see. I have to watch that actually. But Yeah, I guess I should probably wrap up just because I have to prepare for my BBC interview.
Mhm.
Very famous now. I'm just kidding. Hopefully it turns out good, and I'd like to share it with you guys once I get it. But thank you for everyone who is watching, who's supporting. I'm going to drop the link one more time just for the IFT or Flight 4 shirt, because there's a limited amount of time that you can order one, and maybe you want one. But thank you guys so much for watching. And anything else, Joe, before we leave?
Just congratulations again, 100,000. I think this is just a stop along the way to 1 million. And I think you're going to do great.
Oh, wow. That would be pretty cool. I mean, I've always said I kind of want to be like the female Tim Dodd, because I think we're both like very like bubbly and cheery, and we're definitely not angry. So, I think having females in the space industry or space creator sphere is kind of cool. Do I still have my headache? No, the Tylenol seems to have worked, and BBC interview is in about 30 minutes. So I'm excited for it. I've been trying to do more like public speaking and interviews, and being the one in the hot seat, because I'm used to asking the questions. So, it's really an amazing time to reflect on Ellie in space and the journey, and just sort of how much self-doubt I've had along the way, and still what my channel has become is very exciting. And so thank you guys for supporting the channel. Thank you for believing in me. And it's just upwards from here. So to the moon. So thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Thank you to everyone who super chatted, and we'll talk soon. All right.